Bruins, Hurricanes. Bruins up 2-1. Evan Marinofsky, let's talk a little bit about what we saw in Game 3, how it's going to impact Game 4 going forward. And obviously, we spent a lot of time on Tuukka Rask, and the big story heading into the game. Big story during the game was Jaroslav Halak was freaking dynamite, minus that one complete brain cramp. But that's not everything he saw. He stopped. He was great. Great comments from Bruce Cassidy about how they like him a lot in the locker room. They rallied around him. We've always considered this a 1 and 1A situation, but let's be real. How big a drop-off is there here in talent? We're talking about a Vezina Trophy finalist and one of the best goaltenders in all of hockey with a playoff pedigree, and Jaro Halak, who, of course, has some playoff success of his own and is the best backup or one of the best backups in the league. But what kind of shape are the Bruins in with Halak and who knows what the rest of the way?
So this is the thing with Halak. Halak is probably the best backup goalie in hockey. I mean, to me, Halak is one of the best, if not the best.
Sure.
He is someone who you can absolutely rely on. I think the talent drop-off is obviously pretty big just because it's Tuukka Rask, not because Halak is bad per se. It's more because Rask is so high up there. I do think looking at them in Game 3 and the adversity they're facing and how they're using this and how, Marchand stood up on the bench after Halak's boneheaded play and said, this isn't going to affect us. I think they're rallying around Halak on a different level. Sure. I think they're looking at Halak and saying, you know what, we're going to win it for him. This guy's going to get thrown in there. He got told like an hour before the game that he was going to start. We're going to do this for him. And I think this kind of re-energizes the Bruins. I do think that the team was kind of thrown off by Rask's comments after Game 2 of that it felt like an exhibition game, because I do think they looked at it and said, wait a second, we're out here. It's playoff hockey. Sweeney even said that before Game 3. So I do think, the talent drop-off is there, but I think the will to play for Halak is just on a different level right now, given what they faced earlier this morning.
So this is what we can't know, okay? So Tuukka's gone, and Don Sweeney said he kind of saw it coming. You have to imagine if Sweeney saw something coming, the Bruins teammates might have gotten a vibe. And again, there's a lot of speculation here, but we're trying to read between the lines. You have to imagine that the Bruins had a vibe, especially with those comments. He's having a tough time getting motivated for this. And again, we chalked it up to him just being honest and direct and saying what's on his mind. And I don't know whether it truly affected his performance, but again, the vibe it gives off is, does this guy give a shit? And again, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe everyone's Tuukka being Tuukka. But you do get a sense that, and again, I think people at home should look at it as not Tuukka Rask versus Jaro Halak. It's 80% of Tuukka Rask, or Tuukka Rask without his head really into it, versus a full Jaro Halak doing everything that he can and his teammates rallying around him. And at which case the level might not be as dramatically different as we think. Because, again, we don't know. Tuukka might have had, 50% of his brain back home thinking, I don't know, man, and just not there. His numbers through a couple of games weren't terrific, but he wasn't horrible. But again, that's what you had. The reality is Tuukka Rask it felt like he either didn't want or could not be with the team and give his full attention to hockey, considering what was going on back home. And so, again, that's the reality of what you have, is a fully engaged Jaro Halak, who honestly I would argue is better than both of the Hurricanes starting goaltenders.
Well, so that's the thing. And a fully you hit it. A fully invested Halak is better than a halfway invested Tuukka Rask. And I think that goes for most backup starter scenarios. Now, you also mentioned the Hurricanes goaltending situation. You have Mrazek and Reimer. Mrazek's been in for games 1 and 3, lost both of them after he did play very good. He played very well in Game 3. The Hurricanes did him no favors. He played really, really well. Let in a power play goal and let in that shorthanded goal. Hard to fault him for either of those. But Reimer was the lone winner. I mean, he won it in Game 2.
Yeah.
Played pretty well. That was the Bruins' worst game, so I will give Mrazek a pass on that. But the Hurricane, and this goes back to last year. The Hurricanes are a team that has real problems in net because they don't have a set starter. That's why the idea of the 2-goalie tandem is awesome, but there needs to be a considerable enough difference between 1 and 2 that you can make a starter for the playoffs. The Hurricanes had the same problem last year. They had Mrazek and McElhaney went in for, I believe, games 3 and 4. Mrazek was only games 1 and 2. It's the same thing this year, except the performances are much better. But they still don't have a grasp because Mrazek and Reimer are too close in talent to pick one. And Rob Brind'Amour is facing that challenge right now.
And that's the cliche. If you don't have one set starter, you have none.
You have none.
You have none. And it is what it is. So now you've got a lot of guesswork there because, right, you may view, if the eye test, if you think Mrazek is slightly higher as the one, which is why you give him the game one nod, which is why you bring him back for game 3 after a game 2 win. That has to tell you that's who Brind'Amour wants to be the guy. But now you got to second guess yourself and say, well, 2 losses, 1 win. Kind of played well in 3. Do I come back? Do I go to the other? If I go back to this guy, he gets shelled in game 4. Is that on me? And you start to second guess yourself. So you're almost always in the middle of some sort of goalie controversy, even in your own mind, let alone who your teammates think, who the teammates think should be out there, who the fans think should be out there. So it's this thing that doesn't go away for them. We'll see what decision he makes there. They'll obviously going to be shorthanded now, where the Bruins have been without David Pastrnak and were able to survive game 3. You're without Andrei Svechnikov, it looks like possibly forever. I don't know the full details, but that looked like a bad that was gruesome situation there. He was in obvious pain, and again, we're speculating at this point, but you can't see him returning.
No, I don't. And the way that injury was, the way that he had to be carried off, that's not something that's a bruise. That's not a sprain. That's not something that, can just get some dirt rubbed on it.
Yeah.
That is not, you cannot use that leg now, at least from what I saw. I looked at that play and that stinks because Svechnikov is one of the great young up-and-coming talents in the NHL. And, he's an absolute joy to watch. He's just so talented. He's quick. He's fast. He's this new NHL-type player.
You're worried about him when he's out there,
Exactly. He's someone you have to account for. You have to game plan around. You have to game plan around Andrei Svechnikov. I also think the people saying it's Chara's fault are idiots because Chara just gained position on him. I don't think it's Chara's fault. That's a freak accident. Chara's leg wasn't even around that leg. It was the other leg. It was his right leg, I believe, that Svechnikov fell awkwardly on. But that is a huge loss for the Hurricanes. Now you are without a lethal scorer, a lethal offensive production guy, and you're down 2-1 in the series.
For an offensively challenged team. Yeah.
For an offensively challenged team, this is not an ideal position for the Carolina Hurricanes.
No. And so, conversely, the Bruins may get back their top scorer in Pastrnak, who we kind of assumed this was going to be a stretch for him to play in game 3 with the short turnaround, the game being at noon. But now you've got a couple of days, a lot of time, all of Saturday, all of Sunday, all of Monday, with the game being Monday night. It's Monday night, correct?
It is Monday night.
Monday night, sorry. So now we've got like 2.5 days to hopefully, and then practice, have a morning skate, go through proper routines. There's no morning skate for game 3. And to really test it and really see where you are and get a good idea if you're going to be able to play. Again, you have a little cushion being up 2-1, but not much. If it were a 3-0 series, we might be talking about, hey, maybe you sit him one more. But it's really nice to get him back, particularly what we saw we like Anders Bjork. We think there's something there, but he was at best invisible, at worst a train wreck in his time there, taking a couple of penalties in game 3. He did get dropped a little bit, on a shift or 2, but I don't know that he's the answer. And if no Pasta, where do you go on that first line?
Well, so just on Bjork real quick, the Bruins have all that momentum at the beginning of the third period. They score a shorthanded goal, and Bjork takes a dumb tripping penalty in the offensive zone.
Zone, it's just
you can't do that. You cannot do that. It was a blatant trip. You can't do that. And Cassidy has no problem taking a young guy and telling him to sit in the back of the bench. And that's what he did with Bjork. As for what they should do, again, we said this after game 2, there's not a lot of options for what they can do. You had Bjork that didn't really seem to click well. He could be a placeholder for a few shifts, but not a full game. The interesting one's Stadnyka. Stadnyka looked really, really good in game 3. And with Coyle, he fit really well, especially with Corrali on the left side. He looked great. The advanced stats supported, the eye test supported it. Now, do you want to break up that third line to then put Stadnyka with 2 really capable offensive guys? Now, my opinion on that is give it a few shifts. Try it for a few shifts in game 4. You don't have to set it the whole game. Try it for a few shifts, see how it goes, and ride with it. That is what they should do with Stadnyka. Try him on that first line. They do it in practice all the time. Do it in a game. Let's see what it looks like in a playoff setting against the Hurricanes in game 4. Because You can put Bjork up there, you can put Kuhlman, but those guys are not going to actually produce. They will create chances. They will get the puck in deep. They might be able to cycle it well, but they're not going to set up the high danger chances. And they're also not going to be able to finish at the level someone like Stadnyka would be able to. So to me, Stadnyka is the guy you try. You also have a cushion in this series. It's 2-1. So just go ahead and try it. The kid's got the potential. The kid's probably going to be elite someday. The organization's high on him. Give it a shot. It's like McAvoy in 2017 against the Senators. Throwing him in there and seeing how it worked. It played great back then. Stadnyka has been pretty good to great every time he's been in the lineup during this bubble time.
I like
Give it a shot.
I like it, and I would like to see it. But again, we're not sure, based on
Yeah, Pastrnak could be back, and we could just never have to have this conversation unless it's a nagging injury, which we discussed as well.
And ultimately, let's play the hypothetical here before we wrap it up. Let's say it's close, but he's iffy. Do you roll the dice? Do you play him because you need him, or do you say, let's go one more? Again, this is the tough decision with potentially nagging injuries. Is how ready is ready? Is it, it's injured versus hurt? Is he going to be 100%? Could he benefit from a little bit more time off? It's that game you play. I mean, you're not trying to get out of the first round here. You're trying to win a Stanley Cup with this team, so you have to leverage the long-term, the long-term vision here. They need him to make a deep run.
Short-term pain for long-term gain. That is the perfect thing for it. What's funny to me is I feels like the Bruins were iffy on him going into Game 3. I think there was the way Cassidy was talking about it. It almost sounded like if the game was later on, if it was at 8 p.m. on Saturday, they would have played him. Yeah. So I do think it won't be iffy.
Close.
But if we're gonna play the hypothetical game and say that if he is iffy going to Game 4, you're up 2-1. I do say you don't play him. Now, here's the thing. The Bruins have not scored a 5-on-5 goal since Game 1. The 5-on-5 at the empty net was an empty net. I know.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was a great pass by Krejci, but I'm not going to go ahead and count that as like a 5-on-5 goal per se.
Yeah.
But, they scored on the power play and shorthanded in Game 3. Game 2 was 2 power play goals. The power play is looking great. 5-on-5 scoring is not. So you do want Pastrnak back, but you want him healthy. And if you're up 2-1 in a series like this, I say leave him out. Maybe. Let him recover from that nagging injury because you don't want him to re-aggravate it. You do want to give him the extra rest. So if we're going to play the hypothetical game, which I always love playing, if he is iffy going into Game 4, I do think you rest him one more game.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We've got a couple of days, full Saturday, all of Sunday, and all of Monday to kind of see where we are with that. There'll be coverage throughout, though, so keep it here. The YouTube channel here, Evan Marinofsky has the Bruins covered. We'll have tomorrow's practice, more stuff leading up to Game 4, and obviously we'll be here right after Game 4 to break it all down for you. So for Evan Marinofsky, I'm John Zannis. We'll catch you guys later.